All right. I think we are alive. Just give me one sec. Let me just check. Just make sure we're online. Yep. Yep. We're online now.
Awesome.
Yeah. So, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, guys. Today we have the Luke Edmonson and David Edmonson with us. Every so often, I think people ask lots of questions. Says things like should I 100 watts EC more than enough, and why should I go for 200 watts, and where should I go for 300 watts? And all of a sudden, Godox has this a legendary 1200 watts, which lights 801200 Pro, which I enjoyed a lot. And then here's something, 2400 watts comes along, and everybody's like, including me, wondering, like, what do you do with 2400 watts
Sure.
lights? So, and Luke and David is here today to answer all our questions. And I'll pass that on to you guys.
Sounds great. Thank you, Aries. So my name is Luke Edmondson. It's good to see you. This is my father.
Howdy.
David Edmondson. It's a privilege to be here today. Aries asked a great question. What do you do when you have 2,400 watt seconds available to you coming from a power pack? And I would describe it, and correct me if I'm wrong here, Dad, but it's a mix of almost like having a sports car available to you, like a Maserati that can go super, super duper fast. That has also the capabilities of a four-wheel drive truck that you can drop into low gear and just power through anything. And so from that standpoint, that makes it a heck of a lot of fun to be able to play with. The specific answer to your question, Aries, is you can use it to light a large area. I mean, a massive area, if that's what you needed to do. And I know that's what we're going to try and show you as we go through our presentation tonight, is not only how we went through the process of creating a particular shot with it that was lighting a large area, how we tested it out for shooting quickly, how fast it could recycle and could it keep up, can we put our camera just on motor drive, etc. And then also show some more of the other usages that you could do with it, including things like the diffusion, the parabolics, so on and so forth. So, well, hello, everybody. Thanks for being here. Aries, can you let me know, are we looking at the slides yet, or should we start that process? How does that need to work? Beautiful. Okay, and apologies here on some of these fonts. If some of the text goes off, we will read from it for you. We noticed that the font size has changed when we uploaded it here. So let's go ahead and let's see, Aries. Yep, there we go. I can control the next slide. So we're looking at the P2400 here. It is rugged in the way that it's put together. It's heavy, but I wouldn't call it onerous, would you?
No.
Yeah.
One assistant could carry it very easy.
It's KL from Australia. Love you guys. So good to see you. So, it feels like it's built like a tank. It's built like a workhorse. It doesn't feel like something that I'm worried is going to have to be babied or pampered. That as a working photographer, I can throw it in my vehicle and keep going. I really enjoyed the way that the touchscreen, not the touchscreen, but the LED screen looked, and the way that it was easy to navigate. That single dial with the knob on there. Everything felt very intuitive and straightforward, especially when you're already familiar with the way that the Godox menu systems work, to where you felt like you could just hop right on it and be able to set it up. Obviously, there are two modes that you can choose. One is a more color specific, and the other is the freeze. And when we look at our video here, you're going to see we chose the freeze option in order to get those fastest recycle times. With that being said, I didn't feel like I had a lot of color variance going on, even in the freeze mode. And so certainly if it was in the color mode, I'd be interested in really, I guess, testing that out to see by comparison. And I'll show you about 144 shots that were done in succession. And I think you'll agree, the color variance, it was just spot on the entire time.
And when we say in succession, that means that Luke pushed down on the shutter and never let up. It just was going like a machine gun.
Yeah, part of the fun. Like I said, it's a mix of like, this is like having a Formula One race car and a 4x4 truck. So how powerful is 2400 watt seconds? Well, to put it in comparison, if you have a V1 or something like that, that's about 76 watt seconds. So I wrote 30 times. Technically, if you're technical, and there's always technical people in there, I think it's about 31.5, somewhere in there. But that's what it's equivalent to having at your disposal. And we also, for our shoot, and you're going to see this in a second here, we ended up having the extension cables on there. We ended up running our power from a long distance. So you're going to be able to see it was done, in kind of more of a challenging type situation. Next, I'd like to just briefly touch on the fact that there are two different types of heads that are available for
P24.
Yeah, for the P2400. The first one is the one that's kind of the standard one. It has a zoomable head in there, which comes in very nice. We certainly have enjoyed using the standard head. Has the built-in umbrella holder, all those kinds of things that makes it really handy to be able to use and so forth. Bow and mount, exactly. When all said, you go to the 2400 ring flash, same as kind of the 1200 version. It's about an 8-inch flash, gives you that beautiful,
broad light source.
Yeah, you have the broad light source that you can use, and the ability to be able to put it on axis on the camera if you so chose to do. Let's see here. Yeah, so this represents not a picture that we took with the 2400, but this was when we were just testing out the 1200 ring flash. And this is shooting with the direct flash on there while having our main light over to the side and just using that ring flash to control the fill light. And so that's something that I'll give an example where that might be appropriate. Let's say you're shooting a corporate event. Or something where you have to do like a massive group shot and you don't have anywhere that you can bounce. There's no opportunity to bounce a light somewhere. So let's see here. Yeah. Okay. Perfect. Thanks, Philip. And so that's where having that on axis flash that can come in could be helpful in order to control your ratios. Yeah. All right. Also has the parabolic reflectors. We personally have really enjoyed the 158. We've worked with the 128 as well. The zoomable aspect of them really allows you to control just the quality of the light that you're having come from it. I'd say the construction quality feels sturdy. Took me a little bit of time, not because it was not well explained, but just to try and intuitively figure out when you're trying to put on your diffusion material, what was the best way to kind of start finding which hole to start with and start working your way around and kind of get it all set up. And once it's set up, you're like, this is it. I'm keeping it going for a while. But it does have a single or double net option, depending on how much more diffused that you want that diffusion to be, which is nice. So without trying to go into too much more there, okay, I need to hit on this too. Yeah. Again, apologize for the fonts changing as we uploaded here, but basically when you translate, I thought it's good for people that work in inches. That 68 centimeter one is about a 26 inch. The 88 is a 34 inch, 128 is a 50 inch, and 158 centimeters is 62 inches. Ballpark, it's a 5-foot light source. And so let's see kind of how that works. Aries, make sure that we can get sound on this. Oh, can you play the first video, please?
Hey, I'm Luke Edmonson, and today David and I are both here on set shooting with Godox's latest power pack, the P2400. So we came out here today to this warehouse to be able to shoot with a hula hoop artist. So we can show you 3 of the key factors that make the P2400 so special. Number 1, it's rugged. Number 2, it's powerful. And number 3, it's fast. And as a bonus, it's super consistent as well.
So, you know, when we found out that we were going to be able to use the 2400, one of the exciting things to us was maybe we could use hula hoops, which, you know, when you spin them will go 90 miles an hour. So we just basically said, let's go ahead and just hold that shutter down and see what we can get.
The thing I'd want to tell you is I was blown away by the speed. As somebody who's used battery-powered packs before, I've always struggled with a misfire here or there, or situations where I wish my flash could keep up with me. Well, imagine if you could just put your camera on continuous motor drive and just let it fly. That's what we did, and the P2400 was up to the challenge.
You know, I've been in this business a long time and I'm used to large power packs, but I'm not used to large, rugged power packs like this that give you 2400 watt seconds and also has speed. Especially this freeze thing where you can just burst and go boom, 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 boom. It's just amazing, because when you have subtleties in a shot, sometimes the difference between getting the shot and not getting the shot could be just a fraction of a second.
The color mode makes it so easy to have beautifully consistent color, but the freeze mode gives you those faster cycle times, which is exactly what we needed to get the kind of shot that we were going for. In fact, one of the things that was really special was the fact that we could be at f/16 at ISO 100 and still have room to spare in terms of how much power was available from the power pack. What's instantly obvious is the fact that the upgraded color screen on this power pack, its build quality, consistency to the output that you're going to get, the variations that you can choose in terms of the modes, whether that's the freeze or the color mode. This is the next step up for Godox. For commercial photographers and studio photographers like us, it's more affordable and more accessible because of that. We love the fact that it's something that we can take on location if we need to, or use back home in the studio. Godox is making photography lighting accessible for all.
So let's hit pause right there on the video, and I'll take you back into the slides real quick, and we can kind of just walk through, this particular shot. But, we're using two of the P2400 power packs in order to accomplish it. 3 of the heads are set to a quarter power, and one I think was set to a 32nd of a power. Mm-hmm. And so the reason for that is because it was the uplight on the material in the background. And so you obviously don't want to be blowing that out too much. But we wanted to use 2 of the parabolics. So we wanted to use a large one over to one side to be kind of our main light hitting our subject in a softer quality way. And then go ahead and have a second smaller parabolic off to the other side and kind of cross light in that manner. And use that one to go ahead and create more of a specular highlight on her for separation. And then there's one additional light that's been placed up in the rafters, which is part of the reason why we needed the extenders on here in order to run all the lights in the right places. And that one's being used just to capture the smoke.
And the make a back separation light.
Yes. Also, yes. Yeah. It served 2 purposes within that. And then, conceptually here, and for those that know David and myself, we believe that a piece of equipment solves a particular problem. It won't solve your problems. And as a wedding photographer, I mean, there's times where I go, a V1 is the best flash for me because this is what I need right this second. As a commercial photographer, all of a sudden, if you go, I need to light a large area or I need to be able to stop things, not every flash is going to have a short enough duration for what you're looking for. So, that's where the right tool properly used makes quick work. And so that was the opportunity to be able to create with this. We'll show you our metadata there in terms of it, but this is one of the frames from in there. But, I think it's going to say it's about f/16, ISO 100, 200th of a second. When we did the 144 shots, we did go ahead and drop down our aperture a bit from there and stuff because we wanted to make sure we could just
and raised our ISO to 400.
Yeah, just let it just rock and roll. But this was giving you an idea of kind of at that moment, can you capture the hula hoops? Can you stop all the action? And the answer to that was undoubtedly yes.
Actually, I have a question,
Sure.
right? Look, when you set it at a quarter power, what do you reckon the recycling time is?
I mean, it was less than, I mean, if it's 0.7 seconds at full power, it was less than that. You know, what I wasn't doing is I wasn't trying to shoot 144 shots in a row at that point where I just literally did it. I would say that I probably shot in bursts without having it like on an auto drive, but just using my finger, because I was still getting used to the fact that because I don't typically shoot in motor drive where I just go, I'll just shoot through the moment. Although it's more possible than ever today with technology. I've always been like, hey, I'm going to push the button to capture a frame. You know, I was always looking through the viewfinder going, when do I have her face, you know, kind of, you know, within that circle, because I knew what part of the framing that I wanted to get, you know, within there.
But we were getting full recycles as fast as you could just hold down on the trigger when we had it where we weren't at full power.
Yeah. So the other thing that I would say, generally speaking here, is when she was going about and doing the process of it, you know, we're trying to talk to her about like, okay, let's bring your head this way. You're still trying to do posing, I guess is what I'm trying to say, while you're trying to show off what the camera can technically, or the light can technically do. So, you know, there was during this part of it where we're capturing this, we're looking at, you know, what does her performance look like? How do we get the shape within the shape within the shape? Because we're concerned about the content of the picture, not just to be a technical marvel. We want it to be interesting artistically. So we were playing off circles, we're playing off the triangles, and then we're playing obviously off of the color schemes that are going on inside of there. You know, here's showing how the meter was set, and then of course, you know, how the power pack itself was set. I know that we had it in the video. It showed it was at a quarter for one of them. The other one was at a quarter and a 30-second. And because they have the extensions on there, I want to say that it probably drops it by either a half or a full stop there, just because you have those extensions on there in order to run that. So how much are we actually putting out from here? Probably an 1/8 across the board, you know, and a 64th, something like that. Yep. Let's see here. And then of course, this is coming in on that, you know, shooting those 144 shots, just one after the other and just letting it go. And this has had, I mean, there's not time to say, I'm going to go in and I'm going to do Photoshop. This is just shooting the JPEGs, square in camera on the Nikon, you know, type thing. And I would say that, you know, from my standpoint, I don't see color variance going on there. That's going to be offensive. And this is in the freeze mode. This is not even in the color mode. So I thought that was pretty darn remarkable.
That was impressive.
Yeah. Not to mention that, of course, she's trying to do her arms and go and go and go. And then she's like, okay, I've lost it. Here went one. Okay. Start it back up again type thing or whatever. I need 144 in a row. Let's go.
Yeah. Look, do you can you give advice to the other photographers when to use the freeze mode and when should they use the color mode?
Yeah. Well, I would just say this, like if I was in something where I needed a lot of color accuracy and I wanted to put myself in the best situation, the color mode exists, I'd use it. And that would be something where, you know, perhaps you're in a slower, more portrait-y driven type shooting style. And maybe it doesn't matter if you have a 1 second recycle time versus 0.7 seconds at full power. Generally speaking, if you're in the studio, you're probably not going to be shooting this power pack at full power, generally speaking. But if you take it out on location or something, you sure might, especially depending on how large that space is. And so I would say that when you are in a situation like this, where I'm showing movement and I don't want to have any motion blur as part of it, which arguably motion blur could be part of the look you're going for in a picture, right?
But not today.
But not today, right? That's not the point of
No.
this particular shot. You know, you're looking for crisp stopping action. You know, this is the quintessential, you know, it's the ice cube being dropped inside of a drink and you want to capture, you know, every little thing. And so that's where having that really fast, both recycle time and also short duration. Obviously, if you're trying to shorten the duration, you're going down in power. That's part of the trick of it. But when you have 2,400 watt seconds to play with and you're going down in power, you're still at, you know, 300 watt seconds or whatever it's going to be as you're dropping down into those lower ranges. This is the metadata to show you from this part of the scene. But it's small for me here, but I'm going to guess it was around F8, excuse me, about F5.6 probably. ISO 400 and 200th of a second, something like that, to be able to go and shoot. And that was, like I said, just literally put it on camera high and just let's see what we can do. Yeah. So lots of fun. Okay, let's get an idea of what it was like just to be there on set. So I'm going to call the distance between those posts of roughly 20 to 24 feet. Would you say that's fair? Per post, something like that. You can see how we're having to run our extension wires, out of the frame from the camera perspective, and to be able to get distance to her, we're flagging our lens in order to make sure we don't have any flare, etc. This is looking at it as well during the video shooting portion. Gives you an idea there of where we've placed our parabolics. Obviously, this is in the video, but it also helps sometimes be able just to see even additional things that are outside of the video's frames. If you look way back in the distance there, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, at least 6 posts behind me, there's a dark area on the left, and that's actually where we had to run the power cords all the way out to get to the closest power outlet. So I'm going to guess we're running easily between 100 to 150 feet of extension cords before we're even getting to the power pack itself. So that's obviously a draw on the power as well. And so the fact that the power packs can keep up with that was remarkable. This is looking from the opposite angle, looking back, so you can see how easy it is to build a shape, but then also have a stage, and all it needs to do is look good from the front. You can see, obviously, we have our largest light source over to the side there. And then, of course, here's kind of that side-on view as well, looking in there and to see how it was done. So, Aries, can we play the second video and do the video part?
One of the beautiful things about the P2400 was that we combined it with the new ring flash that's coming out from Godox called the R2400, along with the parabolic reflectors, allowing us to light large areas.
When I heard that Godox was going to make an adapter on their ring flash that you could put inside your parabolics, I was so excited because that large light source creates such a beautiful, beautiful light on the subject. A lot of people claim to have parabolics, but this parabolic is a true parabolic with an actual U shape. And so when you bring the light in closer, it creates a very narrow beam and a little bit more contrast. And then you bring it back out to the outside of the parabolic, and it creates this beautiful, beautiful soft light.
Because it has the steps that you can use to be able to gauge exactly how much you move it in and out, you can get to know exactly how diffused and soft you want your lighting to be, or how much more strong and contrasty you want the direction of light that's coming out from it. I know for us, one of the beautiful things was being able to use the 158 reflector to be able to create a softer, diffused light striking our subject, while using the 88 behind her to be able to have a little bit more stronger sense of separation light, illuminating our subject.
And then we also had a light from above that was going to create almost kind of a theater circus type of beam. And of course we put fog on that, so it'd give just that little shaft of light and give it just a little bit more of an aura of mystery. And then we had one light, a fourth light that we shot up onto the fabric just to give it a little bit of three-dimensional dancing on the way that the fabric folds.
Thanks for taking time to check out our video on the P2400.
It means so much to me that you took the time to watch this video as we tested out the P2400.
We hope that it not only inspired you, but perhaps gave you something to aspire towards. We can't wait to see what you create using Godox lighting.
There you have it. So, Aries, do you have any other questions about that particular shot? Or can we get into looking at what are some other ways?
Temperature safe.
Yeah, and here's a question coming in about, the 2400 and the 1200, have over temperature safety. So I guess the question is there a built-in cutoff or something like that? And I don't know the technical difference between the 2400 and the 1200 to be able to answer that for you. We'd have to look at the tech specs or ask somebody from Godox. What I can say is I did not hit that. I did not hit a built-in shutoff like I might on my V1.
Right.
And have to do the whole trick of like pop the battery out, slap the battery back in, reset it type deal. That did not happen when we were shooting the burst coming across. If you were at full power, I'm sure that the tech specs say something like, and I'll make it up, 400 full power, pops or something like that before it shuts down in order to preserve the power pack. That's the whole reason. And that's not unique to power packs to today. I mean, I remember on your old Novatrons, they had a fuse that would pop if you ran them too hot for too long. So that's just one of the the thermal features that actually helps protect you from your own.
I'm guessing they do. It's just we didn't even get close to using the strength of our lights.
Yeah.
So we were on the bottom side of it.
Yeah. Anything else on this particular shot?
No.
Perfect. So where I'd want to take it next is, okay, that's great. You can do something like that, light a large space and so forth. But what would be the next, what's the next thing that you could do? How can you use it in other situations? And so for that, we were asked or tasked with, using Godox lighting in order to produce like a long form teaching video for B&H for their depth of field conference. And as part of that, we used the P2400 along with the ring flash, along with the diffusion, and took it through several different lighting styles and looks. And so the first one that I'd like to be able to share with you is going to be, and I'm looking over here at my notes here real quick to make sure I got the right one coming up, but it's going to be more of just doing a portrait in space and not necessarily using the light to overpower the scene, but it was more about using it to
produce contrast on our subject matter and make them a little contrastier than the background.
100%. And within that, we were still shooting that same space that you just saw before. So it's still a very large space. We need to throw our light a long distance. In fact, we need to throw our soft quality of light a long distance. And so let's go ahead and roll the next video here so we can kind of walk through how that works.
Yeah, guys, we will answer all your questions after the video.
Okay.
Our second setup moves us away from the windows into the center of the room.
So I think on this one we want to try split lighting on her. And I may have the light up a little too high with the shadow brim of the hat.
We went ahead and we got our tripod set, specifically when we were trying to look at this from a, what would you want to call this, a compositional standpoint.
Symmetrical.
We knew we wanted to get it symmetrical, and so just kind of changing my shutter speed here, but we used that center line of the post as the thing that we wanted to bounce off of, and then go ahead and use those columns going on each side. Okay, could you do something for me real quick where maybe you didn't even have to think about it, you just kind of reached down and grabbed a little bit of your dress, maybe across your feet as you're there, maybe your hand is resting softly and gently on here, beautiful, camera's gonna be this way, gorgeous, and then maybe just barely lean from the chest, falling into frame. Oh, beautiful, look at that. I love what we've done with that base heater that's right in front of her. It really says something, it speaks to me.
We need to explain that it's a very cold day today, and this is just one way that we can show love to the model.
That's right, no, we'll get that fixed here in a second. Anything you want to adjust in terms of the lighting on her face or anything like that, or you feel pretty good about that?
I'm going to lower it just a little bit more.
Yep.
I want to have a little form from the brim of the hat, but I also don't want it to take away from her eyes.
Absolutely. Okay, gorgeous. I love what we've done on that.
Can we open up our ambient?
Sure.
If you're at 100th of a second, can we even take it down since we're on
I'm
a
at a
tripod?
60th.
Okay. I just want to open up a little bit of the shadow side of her face as it comes across her nose.
Correct.
Just a little bit.
So maybe there's something a little bit more like that.
Yeah, I still want her to have that little bit of mystery. Do you know what? I thought I wanted to do split light, but when I saw it, I said, no, I want to have a little more form wrap across.
So instead of having the light here and then just splitting as it went across her face,
you wanted to go ahead and bring it up from her a little bit more.
Bring it forward so
and
it'll just
feather it, so that instead of pointing it directly at her, start just point it a little bit more this way.
That is
So that
correct.
the
I'm
edge
standing,
of the light.
I'm standing directly in front of the light. The most contrast that I actually want in the image is right in here.
Right,
The
that's what I'm
rest
trying
of
to
the
say,
room,
yeah.
I want, even though there could be darks and light, I don't want the same amount of contrast. I want to bring it to where I want the eye to look.
We've switched to using the P2400 with the 59-inch reflector. Its silver interior and parabolic shape create clean specular highlights from a broad light source that feels like it wraps around our subject. We chose this powerful plugged-in power pack because it helps us light large areas.
All right, my friend. Now, you mentioned that we may have some questions coming up, so I'd be happy to answer those as well.
Yeah. Do you want to answer them now, or you want to answer them by
Well,
the end of the
I mean,
presentation?
as you feel in stride. Yep.
All right.
Obviously, this is. Let's talk here about this picture while you have a chance to look at any questions, and then we'll make sure we hit on them. But you know, we touched on it there within the video, but you know, the entire goal here was to use the lighting to draw a center of attention or center of focus by having more detail or sharpness or contrast. All three of those aspects produced by the model who's there in the middle of the frame than the rest of it. So it allows it to feel as if the rest of it becomes a supporting element around her rather than all of equal value.
And as a general rule, where you want to put the subject, you want to probably have the most contrast in the frame to draw the eye to it. And as it gets more and more into the background, you want the contrast to usually fade away as a general rule.
As a general, yeah. And then even thematically, we're going more monochromatic with our color scheme here, so that we're allowing the picture as a whole to feel a little bit more homogeneous in the way it is. So again, in order to draw that attention, now we've got to do it through lighting more so than trying to say we're putting a girl in red, which instantly, from a color perspective, is going to create the impact or the contrast. Yes, Mr. Aries, did anything come up or keep moving?
Yeah, there are a couple of questions. I guess I will answer this one. So basically, Godox do the repair through the dealer. For example, if you purchase from B&H, obviously you need to repair them through B&H. If you purchase, for example, KO Australia, which was in the comments somewhere earlier, right? Then obviously you can do the repair through KO Australia. So there is no long answer short. There's no. So you basically do the repair through your retailer. That's pretty much it. If you purchase from DigiDirect, you need to bring that back to DigiDirect for your repair. That's it. And there is a question regarding the cable.
Yep. So is there a splitter cable if you need more than 2 outlets per pack? So that's a great question, and perhaps it's something that they could consider in the future. I'm not aware of anything for a splitter to give you more heads on the power pack. I am aware of, and we did use the extension cable to have more length or distance for where you're placing, you know, one of your 2 lights. Obviously for us, we knew we needed to have 4 heads in order to pull off what we were going for. And so it necessitated us having 2 power packs in order to accomplish it.
And I may not be totally correct, but I think one size was a length was 10 feet and another was 15 feet for the extension.
For the extension cables, yeah. Yeah, something like that. Which, I mean, we used every bit of it because we had to go up a post and across, you know, and then hang down, you know, type stuff. So you need every bit of that.
But ironically, we can use it like we could use it with 1200s or 600s and use a combination of anything we wanted with the Godox system.
Absolutely. That's what's great about it. Okay. Aries, I want to take them from, and keep in mind, I dropped y'all into the second video in the series where we were showing you how we did portrait. Prior to that, what we started with is, and I'll show this to you in a little bit, just kind of what the photo looked like. But we started with kind of more natural light portraiture. And then what happens if you were to accentuate a natural light portraiture by bringing in, like, let's say an AD100 or something like that, or a V1. But it's more shooting on location, and you just want to create an additional wink of light, or perhaps you place a light outside a window type thing. But overall, you're using ambient. This next one became, okay, instead of doing a tighter portraiture, now we're going to light a large area, but we're still going to keep it feeling very balanced with the ambient. From here, we're going into our next shot in the series. And at this point, we're going into a much more of an editorial type look. And we're going to be mixing together different qualities of light that are produced by two different lights of different sizes. And so for that, we're going to use the P2400 with the giant diffusion on it and parabolic. And then we'll go ahead and bring in an AD600, as you'll see, in order to make our more specular light. So Aries, please, next video.
Well, I think I can only see 3. Just give me a sec. Let me.
Oh, okay. Let me do this real quick. Yep. You need it from me.
Yeah, I think I need. Wait.
Yep. I got you. I got you. I got you, boo.
Yep.
Yep. Yep. So let me do this real quick. Remove. Remove. Yep. Remove. Present.
Yep, I see. Here we go.
Our fourth shot takes us in a more editorial direction, which we envision in black and white. So we shot it that way in camera. It's possible to use 2 lights coming from the exact same position, with one of them being your main light.
I would call it structured lighting.
A structured lighting, yeah, that's the better.
Because I want to create a deep shadow under her chin. She has this beautiful jawline that because we've used Jenna in the past, we just knew how we could create a structured photo and completely overpower the ambient light that's in the room.
Exactly, but then you bring in your fill light coming in from that exact same side, and now all of a sudden it kind of creates this feeling of spotlight effect on the face, and then just seeing some detail throughout the rest of the frame.
Just enough, because without that little blend of the fill light, it can create just a little too much drama, and you want that little bit of blending between the two, and just a little bit of more detail in the blacks.
If I was just to turn off our main light there and just shoot with the parabolic, it's going to look something like this. So you can see that there's just a little bit of fill light coming into the frame. And now if I go ahead and turn back on our main light and I turn off our fill light, we're going to get something that looks a lot like this, which in general means that we have a beautiful girl that's very starkly lit, and we're just starting to get a little bit of light in terms of the background and so forth, but there's not a lot of depth. It's kind of a very flat, dramatic shot, very stark in the way that it comes together. And when we bring in that fill light, and now starts to come together like this. And so this kind of has a little bit more detail and dimension as you kind of look across at the different background materials and stuff. It gives her a sense of being in an environment. Here we go. And right there, right there. Beautiful, beautiful. Good, good, good. Good. That hand that's low is probably a little too low. Probably bring it up just a little higher. Yes, there you go. Very nice. We're basically at your waist up. Yep, nice. Very good. Perfect, perfect. Good. This simple 2-light approach combines 2 different qualities of light coming from the same direction, to the left of the camera. We are entirely overpowering any ambient and only using our strobes to illuminate our subject. One AD600 is powered up and gridded and set as our primary light source, creating that structured lighting around the model's face. The second light is in the parabolic reflector and powered down because it adds more detail to the darker areas and background. This approach helps us blend our overall lighting while not creating secondary shadows. The underlying effect on your lighting ratios is to control or convey the sense of moodiness you want within your pictures. To us, it's very much a salt to taste.
It sure is. It's like the difference between a cook and a chef.
Yes.
The chef is just going to salt to taste. The cook is going to go, okay, I think I got the perfect ratio of salt. And the chef will taste it and go, no, I need a little more. It just needs to be just right. And just the other thing I would love to say is that, you know, either you start off from the artistic side or you kind of start from the scientific, you know,
You mean as a
formula
photographer?
side. Yes.
Yes, yes.
The formula people need to go to the artistic side. The artistic side needs to go to the formula. You need to end up blending both of those things and ultimately from that, I hope you do create art.
On my fill light here, I ended up just bringing it up 0.3. You know, a full stop was too much. I just wanted a third of a stop, a little bit more fill coming in. And that's the kind of thing where I go, practice, experience, eyeball teaches you.
All right. So maybe that became, you know, an opportunity for people to see, you know, another way to use a light like that, whether or not it is the 2400, just using that larger light source coming from the same direction as your main, more specular or smaller light source that's hitting your subject. And again, at the end of the day, what we're doing with lighting is we're controlling our ratios. And what are ratios but mood? And mood is what we use to inform our audience of how they're supposed to feel when they look upon our photos. And so, you know, these are all great things to have inside of your toolbox. And just like those that love lighting would say, well, you know, at least I'm not a light and airy photographer in a sitcom world, right? If I'm shooting a sitcom, I better be light and airy because it's a light-hearted, you know, type deal. And if I'm shooting, you know, Batman Returns, don't you know it's going to be pools and pockets and drama and mostly dark with little light, you know, type things. So, you know, you're painting with light. I mean, that's the idea behind it. And there's so many different ways to go about it. The thing that I would also say, and we touched on this earlier in areas I know you're familiar with our fondness for this, is the content of your photos. It's not just that you can pull off a technological marvel. That's great. I'm so glad I do that as an exercise. Learn how to pull it off the technique. But then at some point you have to give that technique soul or life or a reason, something that makes the technique secondary to the message you're trying to convey. And when you can pull that off, then it just makes the technique even more remarkable. They go, I don't even know how they did it, but I just love aesthetically, you know, looking at that shot. And so we wanted to take a moment and kind of walk you just a little bit further down that art path, looking at some compositional elements, perhaps trying to figure out how we could pull from the world of painting into our thinking process and do it just with a single light. And using the natural light patterns that are coming in from the scene within there. So if we could, Aries, we'll play our final video, please.
Our final shot lends itself to a more fine art storytelling approach to lighting. Part of that includes using the lighting that's naturally coming through the windows, creating this architectural shape or pattern on the floor within our frame.
The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to turn off our flash and just shoot a quick shot so we kind of get an idea of what it's going to be like exposure-wise without the flash. And so we can review exactly what we got there, but lovely elements going on in terms of what the natural ambient lighting is coming in from the back. But what's lacking is any sense of light hitting our subject so that we can enjoy her as part of this. So now what I'm going to do is turn my flash on. I'm using the AD600 Pro just so that we could put it on a grid and kind of angle it right here. One of the things that we've done is dial it all the way down so it's at 1/256 because we just want a little wink of a light. And so when we add that into there, we get something that's starting to look a little bit more like this. Just beautiful shot of her, and now it's just about tension and then adding atmosphere. So David,
absolutely,
you add your atmosphere if you would, please. Beautiful, 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 and clear. Okay, here we go. The house is on fire, that's right. Right there, right there, right there. Now eyes piercing to us, right there, right there. Good, 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 good. Ah. Relax. Let's take a look and review. The deer head here coming forward to her, and then obviously having the chair in the background creates a triangle for us. And then this angle is kind of going from the left to the right side and going sloping along this way. when we come from the top right to the, or top left to the bottom right, that's what we call the angle of grace. When we go from the bottom left up to the top right, that's more the angle of tension. And so because this is a shot that conveys the emotion of something full of tension, the placement of her in that lower left quadrant like that is probably what's most appropriate.
Going up through the wheelchair, yes.
Yep. Got it, got it, got it. Lift, lift, lift. Beautiful. Oh, beautiful. Look to the light. Look to me. I want this shoulder higher, the front shoulder right there. Good, good, good. Looking past me right here, right here. Last time, lift up. And smile, lift up and smile. Relax. So for this final shot, what we were really trying to do was figure out how to work with the existing light, which was doing a beautiful pattern down here on the ground. Compositionally arrange it, but then using the battery-powered AD600, put a grid on it so that we didn't have light just spilling around within the scene that would then start to lose some of our pattern.
We wanted it to almost feel like it was coming from the same light source, but just barely a little bit extended on her face.
Yep. So coming around.
Just wrapping around.
And of course, it's supposed to invoke a sense of tension, her crawling there and so forth, and the way that the hands are positioned, the stressedness of the fingers, things along those lines. So a very simple shot in terms of lighting, just a single light, probably more interesting in the sense of how do you create a concept and work within a scene versus where we originally started, which was just classic portraiture, a person against a window or something like that. You're just trying to get that.
They love storytelling. Again, even part of this was just because of studying Andrew Wyeth, you know, and his whole Christina's world.
Sure, well, and that's the obvious homage for a picture like this.
But instead of not seeing her and seeing her from the backside, except for the tension.
Bringing it around to the front.
Yes.
From a storytelling aspect, we were playing off just a few simple concepts, such as light versus dark, or the alternation of life and death, strength and weakness, or struggles versus determination.
All right. So hopefully that kind of helped put a bow on what all can be done, you know, photographically, just in terms of thinking about the content that's within our frame. You know, again, we're showing you here just the simple arrangement of three objects within the scene. You've got such structure going on. You've got the lines creating the diagonal on the floor. Now it just becomes about just a simple arrangement and distancing scale. You know, if we brought the wheelchair too far, it would dominate too much. You don't want to draw too much attention to the deer head in the back, you know, all those kinds of things. So you're just figuring out proportions, you know, as you go about doing it. If you decide that you wanted to go and see more about it, this is one of the shots we did for more on the commercial side of things, you know, taking it kind of more of a Kill Bill, you know, type approach. And then even the very first shot that we started off with that I alluded to, very tight, just coming in, making it look like it's natural light portraiture. So, I mean, there's so much that we can do as photographers, and there's so much equipment that Godox provides, you know, the photography world with. The question is, you know, when you take these instruments in your hand, how will you use them? What's your performance going to be? I think of you, Aries, with the 1200 and the fact that you were on a cliff trying to shoot down on this girl, and like the 1200 gave you the ability to shoot that shot at that time of day. And you would not have been able to have accomplished it otherwise. Plus just get, all the head out there, everything like that. And so that's where the technology is just giving us such freedom and flexibility.
Absolutely.
That I don't know that we've had in quite some time. And then of course, you know, just obviously the price point that these things come in as well makes them more accessible. The P2400 is not going to be your cheapest you know, piece of gear that's out there. If you were a commercial photographer, if you were a high volume studio, if you did a lot of work where you needed color, consistency, power, and speed, then it's a no-brainer to me to get it. If you're a hobbyist, then the P2400 is probably not the first piece of gear you fit yourself with.
Unless you're a hobbyist that did really well in the stock market.
Well, that's true too. That's true too. If you're a hobbyist who's trying to figure out not how to save money, but just how to have more toys, then certainly.
Yeah.
But I mean, my point is there's nothing more challenging than when somebody says to you, well, that's easy for you because, and then they insert their excuse. Because you have this camera, because you have this, piece of equipment, because you have something. And what they're really not saying is their biggest challenge is they just don't have any good ideas. Start with your good idea and then figure out how you'll use your craft to execute it. And if you reach a point where you go, I can't execute it with my equipment as is, then that's when you add that next piece to your arsenal. And what a joy it is. What other questions might be coming in?
Not really, but to continue the talk. The clip shots. Before I received 8200 Pro, right? I was like, what do you do with 1200 watts?
Sure.
I feel like lots of people were wondering too. And after I received 1200 Pro, I was like, you can do that. So sometimes the technology does help to extend your imagination too, to some extent. And I like what you said. Nowadays, I just use 8200 not to lead the person, but quite every so often to lead up a huge area to mimic, the perfect sunset whatsoever. Yes. So it's not the cheapest equipment, but just go to local store, rent it out for a day, and it's not that expensive. I know, as a matter of fact, lots of retailer in Australia, they rent it out, like KO Australia. I'm sure just rent, and life is short. Keep on trying new stuff.
Yep.
Yes, and if you have to rent it 3 times or more, you might say, "Well, I just may need to make a purchase."
And that's kind of what our philosophy is we say if we have to get something 3 times or more, then we should own it.
Yeah,
that's kind of our rule of thumb. And then also you find yourself going, well, I've got more and more reasons now to use it too, because as you get more comfortable. And the great thing about the ecosystem with Godox is obviously you're able to use your same triggers. The thinking process is the same on the menus. Like once you understand how you go about, changing things, you get it. It's consistent across all the different products. So you don't feel like you're having to relearn something, which is really nice.
Yeah. And all the modifiers are pretty much,
Absolutely.
Love it. Well, again, on the parabolic, the thing I'd say about that is you certainly can go through and you can do all your zooming and stuff like that, but because it's stepped, and when I say stepped, it has measurable amounts on there, and you can say, okay, I've extended my bar till the number 5 or something like that. That gives you that reference point then that you could take and go in any other situation and be able to put it up exactly the same way.
Yeah.
So here's a question. Which equipment would you say is basic gear to have from Godox? If I was starting out, I would have if you're a pro photographer, I see that coming in. I would say you need either the 860 V2 or V1. You need some sort of on-camera flash that also acts as a controller, just in case. And then it's kind of your choice, dealer's choice there about whether you look at a 200, a 300, or even a 400
or 6.
Yeah. Well, and then there's the 6. But I'm just saying that next range, and I personally would lean towards the 300s because it has its own ecosystem for the modifiers, which I really enjoy. It's a good size, can be held in a hand, gives you some of the same benefits that you might have from the 100. And when I say benefits, because it's shaped like a can, if you needed to, you can set it on top of something just to do your fill light. And I feel like
small enough you can put it in a camera case and not be overly encumbered.
Exactly. You could travel with it very easily. And what I would really express to people is to us, oftentimes if you ask us what our most important light is in a scene, and I say important, and it's for this reason, because it makes our lighting work. is the one that controls our fill light. Because until then, it's a bunch of directional light that's coming in. And that fill light, once we set whatever is going to be our fill, whether we're bouncing off of a thing, we're shooting a ring flash in, like whatever it is, that's what blends all the lighting together. So there's still direction to it. There's still quality to it, but it feels like it's a single scene versus just like starkness.
Sure, that's how you change your ratios.
Exactly, and that's how you change your ratio. So there, having a light that you really enjoy using to control your ambient, or excuse me, your fill, your ratios is really useful. And then once you've gone past that 300, then I would say it's a little bit of dealer's choice whether you want to look at a 600, maybe you want to look at the 1200s if you needed more power. Perfect analogy for a 1200 might be if you're going to do a lot of pre-wedding portraiture and you needed even more distance from your subjects, because we all know you can bring somebody in close and light them, but if you said, I really want to back out, that 1200 gives you that ability. Start backing out further and further. And then, obviously, if you get to even a higher level, sure, the 2400 is going to be.
But at 1200, you can go out in the midday sun and overpower the sun, where you could not do that with the 300.
That is correct. Not as easy.
Working with what time of day.
Correct.
With the 1200, you go, I don't care what time of day it is.
Well, yeah, I'll create my own day. Like I'll create whatever time of day I need at whatever time. Like, for instance, like, we were asked to do, and I'm blanking on the name, but there's the new retro flash from Godox. And I'm going to say that if the V1 is 76 watt seconds, this one's like half that. Like it's like nothing, but it's really cool to work with. And you go, okay, I really want to get a dramatic shot with this, but to pull that off, I got to be out there right at either dawn or dusk, just because that's the limitation of the equipment. Same shot with a 1200, all of a sudden you go, let's go do it at high noon.
It's a wonderful little wink flash that just opens up shadow details.
Yeah. So every tool has its purpose, and a tool properly used makes quick work. What else do we have here? I see people saying thank you, and World of Possibilities opens up with the Godox products. Let's see here. I see them asking a question, saying he has an important question. You want to drop that in there for us, buddy?
Yeah, but where's the question? I was struggling to find it.
He came in, so I'm just trying to make sure he knows he was seen, heard, and recognized.
Yeah, Then didn't. Yeah, Then said I had a question, but he never dropped a question here.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yep. Yep. And I see that Philip loves the 158. Me too. Me too. It's great. Yeah. I strongly encourage you, if I was, the other thing I'd say is if you're going to start getting a kit or outfitted, I cannot encourage you enough to look at the parabolics. I mean, the build quality on them, the cases are wonderful to carry them around. It is something that takes a little bit more time to set up, but once it's set up,
but it's not bad. Just
well, yeah. But I'm saying, once it's set up, I'm saying some people get used to just I'm doing an umbrella flash. It's a this, right? But once you've got your diffusion on there or not on there, you have so much flexibility on how you change your lighting without having to change necessarily the distance of where you've placed your light, but you're just changing your light inside of your light source overall. And that's just, it gives you like a Swiss Army knife of lighting options when you work with
I feel like if you are running a studio, a parabolic pretty much replace the umbrella, softbox, pretty much replace everything. You just need one. That solves, it's pretty much like a silver bullet that solves all your
Sure. Well, especially in the studio setting where you set it up once and literally just let it be. And that's where you go, I've learned I like to have my light at 5. I like to have it at 8. It's like you just hit your spots and you just tell your assistant, move it to here, move it to here, and it's just consistent every single time. And consistency is a hallmark of being a professional. Anybody can take a great photo sometimes. Can you take a great photo when it's needed?
Good one,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
Yeah. I think there's no further question. And that's it from us today. Thank you guys for watching, and hope I'll see you guys around.
Thank you from Texas.
Thank you, Luke.
Absolutely.
David.
Thank you, guys. Ciao.
Bye.